everybody, I'm BrianTheBlue, and welcome back to Current Calamities, where I take a break from the past to look forward to the future with the games of the present. Finally, I get to play the Big N's platforming franchise. I wasn't talking about Nintendo, you idiots, I'm talking about Namco.
Klonoa Phantasy Reverie series, a 2-game collection consisting of Namco's little-known mascot-wearing mascot.
I never heard of the word reverie before this game, and looking it up, it means a state of being pleasantly lost in one's thoughts or a daydream. It could also mean a fantasy, so this could be called the Fantasy series. Don't think about it too hard.
I haven't played any of the original games, but when I heard this was coming out, I knew I had to get myself a physical copy from PlayAsia. I first heard about Klonoa through Cat Icarus in the video where he gave us the classic meme of 2.5D!
Since then, it's been on my radar, and now I'm trying them out for myself. I'm already ahead on the first game, but I can bring you back up to speed by looking at some cutscenes.
Klonoa is a simple yet curious creature. He finds this ring, and yeah, he's a boy, I'll come back to this later, and makes a new friend in Hugh-Pow. But this also seems to bring about some scary but sick-looking evildoers, including the most badass-looking plague doctor you'll ever see in your life. They kidnap this diva, but leave behind this moon-shaped pendant, and per the request of our grandfather, we go about Phantom Mile helping whoever we can from the villainous Joka, doing the bidding of the Dark Lord Gaudius. But this great power comes with great responsibility, as our grandpa is killed for the pendant. Now we have to go to greater heights in order to get it back. And that's where I left off. After being carried by this flying fish, don't ask me to explain that much, we arrive at the Temple of the Sun, where it seems like we have some sort of puzzle to do for this vision. That's basically how I would describe this game, 2/3 action platformer with puzzles thrown in every now and then. Your ring is what you use for attacks as well as doing better jumping.
It's very simple mechanically, so simple in fact, that it can piss me off at times.
You weren't around for it, but to preference this, there's only 2 collectibles in the game, 150 Dreamstones in every level, along with 6 spheres that have trapped ordinary residents prisoner. In the beginning, I tried my damnedest to get perfect, but later levels proved to be more challenging, at least when it came to the stones. They must be hiding somewhere I haven't looked, but I learned real quick to give up on that idea and just enjoy the game for what it is. It does have a good plot after all. With further assistance from the inhabitants of the temple, we face off against the Joka who killed our grandpa.
The plot of the Tim Burton Batman is holding strong here.
Boss fights, by the way, are pretty simple too. Just have to figure out how to manipulate the combo of 2D and 3D elements into your favor. Though it took a while to defeat him, we finally got that grin of his out of our sights. But that doesn't mean we're done just yet. Seems like Gaudius has used the moon pendant to make the Moon Kingdom rise again, so now we've got to put a stop to it before it's too late. The next 2 visions are probably the longest within the whole game, which makes sense because they're the last 2 as well.
The whole game is 12 levels long, which sounds like a third of what the original Mario was, but in that amount of time, Namco was able to deliver a colorful game with simple controls and a compelling plot to a game some may consider cute.
All the basics you'll need for a platformer are present and made very well, which I expect nothing less from a Namco product, and when the challenge amplifies, it doesn't seem unfair. I'd probably say it's just trial and error gameplay that we get used to for collecting like in other games of its ilk. The later levels will especially turn up the platforming and puzzling to an all-time high, but it's just the culmination of what you've had to tackle thus far. And also the revelation that Hugh-Pow is of royalty certainly would have came out of left field if I didn't watch what Daddy Caddy is ashamed of nowadays.
I've had a good time with the first game, and I'll save how it ends for y'all to enjoy. It's truly something you wouldn't expect, and it's not because I had a tough and rudimentary experience on the very last level leading up to the final boss.
These timing puzzles can fuck off. Why won't you accept my speedrun excuse?
Let's try the sequel.
Lunity's Veil I know less of, don't remember ever seeing a video on it by anyone, so I'm going in completely blind for the most part. It seems like we somewhat carry on from the previous game, if you know you know, and we're rescued by a priestess in training and her talking dog while being under surveillance by some pirates. Gameplay remains largely the same with a few tweaks like with the twisters and the ability to do some surfing of sorts from time to time. There's also something to do with these bells, but I got a bit distracted by Klonoa's mouth.
He's unfortunately got a case of the Sonic Adventure lamps.
Well, it seems like we gotta get our new friend priested before moving on. There's more lore to this game than the original, I find, which is a bit odd. Another odd thing is that they didn't put a counter for the gems by this point.
You would have thought if it wasn't in the first game, they'd rectify it in the second. Maybe not as important as I think it is.
One more thing. The priestess is called Lolo?
No, I don't see it.
Our mission now turns to the towers and the surrounding kingdom, so that seems to be the plan to stop whatever evil is afoot, and these pirates aren't doing us any favor, being a thorn on our side in more ways than one. Not only acting as bosses, but also taking away what we've already collected.
This cat's got a split personality, much like my own.
We have to chase down this feline both ways, which leads to the biggest struggle I've had thus far, but in the end we defeated a good boss before ringing another bell. I failed to mention that every element we get makes something from somewhere call out for help, so I'm left wondering what all it could mean. I think that's a good enough sneak peek, and that's as far as I got anyway. The second quest of Klonoa is interesting for sure. Don't know if it'll surpass the bar set by its predecessor, but I'm still compelled to play it in my spare time. At least I can take a look at the scrapbook. What memories did I make there?
None. Because it was all a dream. So with all that being said, what's my overall opinion?
Any genre of game with the Namco name on it will always be a game I want to try. From fighting, to racing, to rail shooting, to whatever. And of course they're classic arcade games. And when they gave their new platforming character their own mascot to wear, then you know they have high hopes for this series, and they didn't judge too quickly. Klonoa is a good little series, and the Phantasy Reverie update sure made it look good with the new coat of paint. The first one I found to be really great with its easy to learn approach that ups the challenge as you go along. Don't have to worry too much with my 40 lives. The second game is a good complement to the first. I doubt I'm not the only one who didn't remember the sequel was a thing, so you can make up for the lost knowledge and maybe work on those lives too. Definitely a collection to check out, and yes, this will hopefully be the last collection I look at for a while. There's been a lot of them this season, but I could not ignore Klonoa, could you? By the way, did anyone think he was a she? That was my first impression. Would have been another one to put in that echelon of characters, but it turns out I was gender confused the whole time. Like with Turk from Tarzan, that was a female too. Who knew? So what do you think? Do you agree with me, or have your own thoughts? Let me know by leaving a comment. If you like what you see, like the video with those thumbs up. If you think anyone else would like this vid, share it around. And if you want to see more of me, this show, and others, hit the subscribe button. I'm BrianTheBlue, thanks for watching. I'm going back to the past, and until next time, I'll see you in the future.